Hello, I'm Janusz Lewiński and you're watching Break the Fake. They make them, we break them, and tell you everything you need to know. On Wednesday, the 4th of June, Xi Jinping met Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko for the first time at his residence. At first glance, China and Belarus look a bit like rice and lard. But if you mix them well, you can get a geopolitical pilaf with a flavor of authoritarianism. Do they share common values? Yes, a one-party system, a love of censorship, and an obsession with foreign agents. Xi Jinping began the meeting by congratulating Lukashenko on his alleged re-election as president of Belarus and spoke with diplomatic bluntness about the growing traditional friendship between China and Belarus, adding that political mutual trust is unbreakable. In diplomatic terms, this means we're not friends yet, but we're already suspiciously silent.
Мне очень приятно вас видеть, мой старый друг, президент Лукашенко. Хочу еще раз вас поздравить с переизбранием президентом Республики Беларусь. Это в полной мере говорит о поддержке и доверии народа Беларуси в ваш адрес. Уверен, что под вашим руководством ваша страна обязательно достигнет еще более ярких новых успехов в государственном строительстве. Между нашими странами все крепнет традиционная дружба, а также укрепляется нерушимое политическое взаимодоверие, продвигая сотрудничество во всех практических сферах. Мы сохраняем тесные контакты и координированные действия в международных делах. Будь то в рамках ШОС, ООН, мы всегда поддержим кардинальные подходы. Как и вы, как и наша страна, всегда и никогда не подчиняемся каким-либо международным гегемонизму, политике травли. Вместе мы защищаем международную справедливость и равенство. И в конце августа у нас состоится в Цзиньцзине саммит ШОС. А чуть попозже, 3 сентября, мы торжественно будем отмечать победу мировой антифашистской войны, проводим парад. Я сердечно вас приглашаю к этому мероприятию и рад буду вас видеть.
It seems that China is pragmatically using cooperation with Belarus to strengthen its influence in Europe, supporting the Lukashenko regime in exchange for geopolitical benefits, including the transit role that Minsk plays. And by that, we don't just mean goods, but we also mean how Belarus could help China build relations with the European Union, something one commentator called the Belarusian balcony in Europe. Let's be honest, everything China does is in China's interests. In this regard, Lukashenko is a convenient partner for China. He is not so free as to maneuver and make any demands on Beijing, and minimal assistance from China will actually significantly shore up the regime and enable it to continue to hold power in Belarus. So, a win-win situation in a way, right? Belarus has recently been actively developing political and economic relations with China, participating in joint projects, and the Chinese industrial park Big Stone is already operating near Minsk, for example. And there is more. And China supports the Belarusian authorities in the UN, in particular in the Human Rights Council, where it votes against resolutions supporting democracy and human rights in Belarus. According to the Foreign Ministry in Minsk, the partnership with China is actively developing in the areas of security, military, and technological cooperation. Now, we know for sure, Belarus is a country that clings with all its might to anyone who is at least somewhat willing to talk to it, even if this conversation is conducted through an interpreter with a very stern face. And China is a country that will be a friend if it is profitable, convenient, and in the interests of long-term stability. Vladimir Putin has once again delivered a performance in his favorite genre, stand up on the theme of "We're always for peace, but only our own." This time, with a quote that should have graced a textbook of double standards, he said, "Who negotiates with those who rely on terror?"
На высшем уровне. Но как же проводить в этих условиях подобные встречи? О чем говорить? кто вообще ведет переговоры с теми, кто делает ставку на террор, с террористами. И за что их поощрять, предоставляя передышку в боевых действиях, которая будет использована для накачки режима западным оружием, для продолжения насильственной мобилизации и подготовки других террористических актов, подобных тем, которые были осуществлены в Брянской и Курской областях. Что касается вопросов за...
If you believe Putin's logic, negotiations can be conducted with the Taliban, but not with Ukraine. If you're a real terror group, but you prove somewhat useful, then fine, you will gradually make your way from being shunned like a plague to the status of valuable partner. I mean, a Russian court recently struck down the terror group designation for the Taliban, a quick journey from boogeyman to BFF in Moscow's eyes. Ditto Hamas and the regime in Iran because, again, they are useful as chaos agents. But Ukraine? In exercising the simple act of self-defense, Kiev, in the Kremlin's eyes, has now become worse than Al-Qaeda. You know, we've seen it all before, but let's reiterate. Russia, with its daily shelling of civilian targets, has earned the nickname of ISIS with snow. And yet, it has the temerity to call Ukrainians terrorists. And all of that because of the recent strategic aviation fiasco. Look, Russia may cry about it all it likes, but the facts are as follows. Images from Ukrainian drones show that the Russian bombers blown to bits at various airfields were tools of wanton destruction of Ukrainian cities, many of them literally equipped with cruise missiles attached and ready for imminent launch, perhaps within hours from the moment Ukrainian drones rained on their parade. Russian site Tsargrad even admitted as much in an article which they hastily removed after the attack, but the internet remembers. In other words, Ukraine saved civilian lives by blasting the Russian aircraft into oblivion. Self-defense, plain and simple. However, regrettably, the highest echelons of power in Washington seem to have bought into the false narratives churned out by Moscow. In a recent statement, Trump said he spoke to Putin about, and I quote, the attack on Russia's docked airplanes by Ukraine, and also literally acknowledged Putin, again I quote, will have to respond to the recent attack on the airfields, end of quote. Just like that. Will have to respond. And implicitly, I will do nothing to stop him, I guess. This is how it sounds, and it's not a great take, fam. Again, those docked planes were fueled and armed with launch-ready cruise missiles. Docked? Locked and loaded, more like. You literally have the murder weapon lying out in the open, but instead of having the suspects arrested, you slam the cops for taking their guns away. And then you wonder why half the world keeps raising their eyebrows so much they look like they're wearing the Sigma face filter in real life. Also, newsflash, Russia doesn't want to negotiate in good faith. It's not just the bombings and the shellings, it's what they say. Dmitry Medvedev, former Russian leader and Moscow's duty online edgelord these days, literally said the quiet part out loud. No, we don't seek compromise, we seek victory. Washington, are you listening to this? Ukraine struck military aircraft sloppily left outdoors by Moscow. Moscow striked unarmed civilians, and they do that on a daily basis, by the way. And now, spot the terrorist. See the difference here? Both Democrats and most Republicans do, actually. Even Speaker Mike Johnson wants sanctions on Russia now. Choosing a 15-minute idle chat with Putin over this, simply mind-boggling. And with this we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. Stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.